Greetings, everyone. Your cartoonist pal Stan here with a brand new episode of Random Encounters, the show where I use random encounter tables, like the kind you find in tabletop role playing games, such as Dungeons and Dragons, together with an electronic die roller and input from you, folks who are in the live chat while this is going on, to put together a collection of who and what drawing prompts. And after we get a who and a what, I draw that thing. And I draw it for your entertainment and mine. I do this because it is fun. Drawing is fun. There, I said it. Say it every week. And I encourage you all to have some fun too. Whether you're drawing the same thing I am, or drawing something else that you see in front of you, or drawing your favorite cartoon character, or just kind of doodling around for the fun of it. Enjoy drawing. That's everyone I know who has gone on to do any kind of work professionally in any creative field got there because they found the doing of that thing fun, and they did it anyway, and they did it long enough to get better. It takes time. I won't say it doesn't, but you have fun along the way, and that's how you get through it. If you're just doing these creative things to try and get through them and be better, oh boy, it's a slog, and most people I know who try that don't make it. It drags you down. But if you enjoy it, if you have some fun doing the drawing, Bob's your uncle. You're in. You'll get better over time. So I encourage you, please grab your favorite pen and paper or notebook or sketchbook or electronic drawing implement. That's what I use. I use an iPad Pro and an Apple Pencil and the app Procreate. None of which are sponsors. There are no sponsors on the show, but I say that because people ask me all the time what it is I use, how do I do that? That's how I do it. So, that, my friends, is what's going on. We had, I guess before we get started tonight, I should point out that last night I had some computer issues, which caused everything to slow down and block up. I was not able to do drawing and get the camera and the audio to work together. I don't know what the problem was. I looked into it and tweaked some knobs, flipped some dials, read some FAQs, and in the end, I don't know. So, it's possible that when I pull up the drawing app here and start drawing, that something untoward might happen and might crash it out again. Or everything will be fine and we'll just go along. Last week, oh boy, did I have a good time last week here on the show. If you were here, we tried the 100 characters in 100-minute challenge, and although I did not end up with 100 characters, wound up with 84, all said and done. But it was a heck of a lot of fun. I had a great time. Hey, Michael in chat, Michael J. Pastor, good to see you again this evening, sir. You were there last week. A lot of people were here. We had a really good time, and the audience, people in the chat, gave a lot of great input. So keep it up. I like that. The concept here is to use these the random encounter tables, and I came up with that when I was doing this just for myself, just for my own entertainment, not for any kind of input with an audience. Who think I didn't think I was going to have an audience. But I would love it. I would love it if we continued to have a lot of folks show up and a lot of input. And the encounter tables can then be a help rather than the main controlling spirit. We'll see. Owen was being mean to me. Well, Owen and I like to challenge each other. We have a long-standing friendship and professional relationship, and we know that when given a good challenge, sometimes the best stuff comes out. So, Owen was suggesting things that I believe he knew I wasn't going to do, but on the other hand, some of the things he suggested, we then twisted into something I did do that otherwise wouldn't have shown up. And some of the things he suggested I've written down in my notebook for reference later. Okay, I'm going to grab my iPad over here. I'm going to have a sip of my Diet Coke over here. And I'm going to push the big green button that takes us over to here. We are, of course, that the reason we had that show last week was it was the end of the second full year of the Random Encounters program. This is kicking off year 3, and so I did the thumbnail promo drawing this week was a year 3 kickoff cartoon. But let's come in here and open that. These are our encounter tables for the week. I'm going to set up my pen and everything the way I like it. And we're now going to come over to the electronic die roller and get going. So let's see what we got. The first two for tonight is 5. And the first what is 1. 5 and 1. And that's going to be a Kenku washing dishes. The Kenku, for those of you who don't know, if you've been watching the show a while, I haven't used them in a while, but they've come through previously. They're avian creatures. They're bird-like. They're very very crow-like. They are COVID. They're anthropomorphic covids, if you want to talk all snooty. Talk like a someone who's a smart person who knows what they're talking about. All right, so we're going to have a Kenku. And Kenku also come from Japanese folklore. So there are the Kenku like you find in D&D and Kenku that you find in Japanese folklore. Not 100% the same, but pretty close. All right, so we're going to need a sink with some dishes in it and suds. And our Kenku here, just getting ready to washing some dishes. It's pretty good. Let's make that larger so it takes up more on the sheet. And that's a pretty good start. You're doing it wrong. Just imitate how I did it, says manager. Yeah. That's a terrible way to manage. Okay. Just want to make sure I had the electronic brush at the size I wanted it to be, and it is. And we're going to draw us a now I got to be careful about that ridge at the top. It looks very chicken-like, and what I want to do is have it look. I want the feathers to come out, but I don't want it to look like a frill like that. You didn't know they were Japanese? Yes, no, Kenku, you should look them up. They are a big part of Japanese folklore. Let's see. Oh, I got here. I have to make our pile of dirty dishes. And the back of the sink. Kenku in D&D don't fly. And I believe that Kenku in Japanese folklore do. And as a result of that, I once wrote a D&D adventure, and it got all the way through for a third-party company. And it got all the way through to being published, with the presumption being that there were a lot of Kenku in it, and they had to fly. The plot had them flying all over the place. And then it published, and one of the first comments we got back was, Kenku don't fly. And I didn't catch that, and the editor didn't catch that. We just kind of went from, the editor thought I must have known, and so didn't double check me, and I didn't double check because in my brain I was going with what I knew from Japanese folklore more than what I knew from D&D rules, and that turned out not to be true. Which, of course, leads to a lesson that is always worth revisiting, no matter how long you've been working in this industry, or really any industry. Never rely 100% on what you know. Always make a little time to double check. I never double checked that Kenku could fly because I was like, of course they can. I know they can. There are any number of reasons why I might have checked that to be sure of what their fly speed was, or things that would be applicable, or you would need to know when doing when running this particular scenario. I probably should have known what their fly speed was, and if I'd looked it up, I'd have known it was 0 because they can't fly. Anyway, here we go. That there, I think, a lot of what's going to make him look like a Kenku is when I color his feathers black. So right now, if I take out the sketch layer, we've got ourselves a pretty well finished Kenku washing dishes in line form. I'm just going to add a few little extra touches to make the lines stand out the way I want them to. Now, one of the things last week when I was doing the drawings was trying to do a character in 60 seconds. Can't get anywhere near this kind of detail. Not even the detail that I did in my sketch of this. This part, that took more than 60 seconds to do here. So that's really a big part of what that challenge last week was about, was forcing yourself to, or me forcing myself to put lines down, commit to them at an even faster pace than I would when sketching, and hope you get it right. Sometimes you do, and sometimes you don't. And we had a little talk about that during the show last time. I'm going to switch over and start doing some coloring. I'm going to switch over to my gloaming brush, which gives me a markery / crayon-y style effect. And I'm going to go with a dark purplish black. I don't know, blue maybe. So here's what I'm going to do. I often do this where I show you do a blue, black, a dark blue for the black, and I'm going to do that for the for his body, for the feathers. And then when it comes time to do the beak, I'm going to switch over, and I'm going to do a purplish black. Just because it's similar to what I talk about, how the different shades of blue affect off-white when we're doing these drawings. You'll see that the difference between a blue black and a purple black is noticeable. It's not that, and neither one looks right or wrong, but you can see a difference, and you don't unless you're someone who works with color very often, you don't know what that difference is, but you'll definitely see a difference. All right, so here we go. I'm going to do that again. I'm going to come over to the purple area now. I'm going to pull a black out of purple. Which again, if I just zoom in and draw that, you say, yeah, that's black, just like that other black. But I think that you'll see in a second as I do this that it's not. You can see that they're different things. And so while our Kenku has black feathers and a black beak, like you'd expect, you can definitely see a difference in the color between those two colors. All right, I think both of those are darker than I really need them to be, so I'm going to already immediately drop the opacity down 10%. I'm going to do, as I was saying before, we're going to use a blue, a bright blue, for highlighting on the suds to make them seem clean. Is that good? Might be. I'm not so sure. I'm not so sure about that blue right now. And I'll tell you one of the reasons why is that I want to add in some pink to get the soap, make them look soapy. Not just bubbly, but soapy bubbles. Let's see, we'll take a slightly grayer blue and use that on the pile of dishes so that they still look white, but they look like a dirtier white. We'll use that on the dish that's being washed. Okay, you see the main color is still white, but your eye perceives it as a different color. What do I need? What do I need? I tell you what I need. I need a yellow for the sponge and kind of a darkish blue for the scrubby side of the brown. The scrubby side of the sponge. That was difficult to say. All right, that's looking all right. Come back to another bluish gray for the sink. And maybe a brownish orange or orangish brown for the countertop. Now we're going to take the color from that we use for coloring and make a darker version of it so we can put some shading in. Just a little bit to increase that feeling of three-dimensionality and texture. It's also going to help, particularly in this character where it's just a very flat, two-tone black. These really help it to the shapes to come out. Again, you see the difference in the two shadings. The difference between the shading there on the blue part and the shading on the beak part, very different. And that's because one's made of blue and one's made of purple. I think I'm going to come in here with another light blue and just stick it on the eye to help create a three-dimensionality so it doesn't look so flat. But, yeah. Let's just add some soapy bubbles floating up in the air. But basically, that's about it. We got ourselves a Kenku washing the dishes. So, come back to my line slayer, go back to my inking brush, and the black ink, and I'll put my little stand in the corner to say I'm done. I always encourage people to sign their drawings when they're done. It feels good. You know, I mean, I remember when I was younger, there were some people who were like, well, you put your name on it like you're showing off. You know what? A little I am. Another is I'm just taking credit for what I did. Anyone wants to know who did this? Stan did it. Who drew that Kenku? Stan drew that Kenku. Yeah. There's nothing wrong with a little bit of showing off. Michael says there's a streamer on Moonbeam who I've been hanging out with who also does art on Procreate. I've been thinking about checking out Moonbeam also. I know that Troy, who was here last week to help out, he's been doing a bunch of stuff with Moonbeam recently. And yeah, I don't know. We'll see. Okay. Done and done. How are you doing today, Michael? You anything big going on? Anyone else in the chat want to pop in and say anything? I know we've got a few more people watching. That you don't. I'm not gonna call you out. You're okay to just sit and watch, or sit and listen. I know I was talking to one friend of mine who puts the show on while they're doing other things. They're streaming it live, but can't watch, which is fine. I know for my Wednesday show, I think it's probably more entertaining because I'm talking to someone else and we're having a conversation. Here, if I'm talking, or when I'm talking, because I talk a lot, I'm almost always talking about what I'm drawing. So not being able to see is certainly lessens the impact that the show can have. All right, so we did that. Another sip here. That was pretty quick. Maybe last week has sped me up a little. I don't know. I guess before we jump on to the next one, since we've got a little extra time, I will take and say this week, Monday was the 5th of May, which is marked as National Cartoonist Day. I think it's international at this point, but it's National Cartoonist Day, and you will see lots of cartoonists and fans of cartoons posting little images about it. I certainly do every year, and one that gets posted a lot, and I do almost every year, is a cartoon from the what was Cliben's first name? A famous cartoonist from the 60s and 70s and 80s. I think it's Richard. What is Cliben's? Cliben. B. Cliben. Oh. Richard is not going to be it. Oh, just B. Cliben. Okay, fair enough. Maybe that's why I didn't know. Anyway, he's most famous for drawings of cats, but he has one drawing that he did. It's a cartoon. It's got a kind of nerdy looking guy dressed well, mustache. He's got women dressed in lingerie on either arm, and there's a woman in the background, just an ordinary woman on the street with hearts popping out of her, and she's clapping. And in front is a policeman, a big, heavy-set policeman, kicking a blind man off the street, saying, "Get out of the way, a cartoonist's coming through." And this is one of the pictures that is often, it's self-referential and self-deprecating and funny. And it's one of the ones that every cartoonist I know loves that, and that's what we all dream of having that kind of power as a cartoonist, not using it badly, but having it. Anyway, someone suggested that so I posted that, and I also discovered this year that someone has done an homage or an interpretation of it. Pardon me, where the cartoonist is a woman, which is great, right? It's much less that one having been done by a guy in the 60s or 70s or whenever he published that cartoon. It's more than a little inappropriately sexist. Let's say the women are dressed in lingerie and yeah, it's just. But I mean, it's not screamingly offensive. But certainly, if he was doing the cartoon today, it wouldn't come out like that. This female cartoonist, a woman cartoonist, has done a version where the cartoonist is a woman. The guys on either arm are very well dressed. Anyway, someone suggested to me that I do a version of that cartoon, but have it be D&D based, D&D themed. So the characters in it, instead of being someone walking down a street in a major metropolitan city, are D&D characters. And I thought that was a clever idea. And he suggested I do it for one of my shows, do it as something during one of the shows. And I thought about doing it tonight, but I'm just not. I'm all set up for this, and I don't feel like I've got my head around what I'd want to do, and I'd like to do a good job when I draw that. So I may do that eventually. I may take one of the weeks here and pick that as something I draw. Maybe I'll, instead of being improv, I'll have an episode where I just draw that start to finish in a more completed version, because it takes somewhere between an hour and an hour and a half, like the show usually goes. Michael says he was a cartoonist. Yes, he was a cartoonist for Playboy for many years. He had his stuff in all the popular magazines. Back in the 60s and 70s and earlier, there were lots of magazines that cartoonists could sell material to. Cliben did work for Playboy. Was kind of the pinnacle in one silo. The New Yorker, pinnacle in another silo. And I believe Cliben did stuff in the New Yorker too. He's very famous for his cats. And in the 70s, there were lots of merchandise with Cliben cats. All over them. Anyway, let us... that'll do it. Hello, Chris Andrew. Welcome. You are just in time, because I'm about to reset the board. You can get a quick look at our Kenku washing the dishes, because he's about to go away and bringing back the encounter tables. Turn on that sketch layer. Turn on all the correct brushes. Put that down for a second. Have another sip. Oh, Michael also says that yes, Larson counts him as an influence. A lot of big cartoonists in the 70s and 80s and 90s will list Cliben as a major influence. Okay. Let's do it. Time to do a second drawing. So I'm going to come back and I'm going to the die roller. And we'll roll it up and see what we get. Come on, come on. Rolling, rolling, rolling. And 4 is our next who. And rolling, rolling, rolling. 4 is also our next what. So 4 and a 4 gives us a mummy brushing teeth. Notice I particularly did not say brushing their teeth. I wanted to leave it open, particularly given some of the possibilities that come up. But mummy, I think the mummy will be probably brushing its teeth. Let's go in here and draw that up. Mummy brushing teeth. Okay, so once again, mummy's one of those characters that is very basic shape because it's all the bandage wrapping. You don't get to have weirdly shaped faces or big ears or other characteristic details. There just aren't very many. Now, I guess one of the questions is, what can we do to gag this up a little? I think it's funny that we started with washing the dishes and now we're at brushing teeth. This is like the chores version. What do you think? The teeth are falling out as he brushes them? I had thought about maybe having a canopic jar that he's brushing, and the canopic jar has teeth on it. So, some kind of jar with maybe an ibis head on it. And teeth. But I think that's conceptually funny, but it's not going to read very funny. So I pass that by. But I thought, worth bringing up. Again, I like to talk about my creative process. And when I quietly don't even do anything and don't mention it, that's harder to discuss. So, we can, let's see, we got a thing of toothpaste. Is holding, if I make the mummy a little smaller so we can get the full money, I can have the mummy wearing a towel wrapped around his waist. I think that's a little funny. Um, I was going to do a mirror there. I don't like how that's going. It's going to be hard to make work right, so I could just put a sink. And we could put there's where we can maybe have a canopic jar on the bathroom counter. Come on, get out of there. There we go. All right, and then I'll grab that and make that bigger. Towel also made of bandages. Spring cleaning snow. Listen, Ankh. I'm trying to remember. I've got a vague idea of what an Ankh looks like, not enough to actually draw it. Let me put that down for a second and make use of the internet while I can, and just refresh my memory. There we go. That's what an Ankh looks like. I was close. I was close. I don't know where an Ankh would fit in here, but now I know if I do. Okay. Um, this seems good. Let's draw this. Now, I'm on the right layer. I'm on the right layer. Okay, so see, when I drew it, I started with the head as a contiguous circle with those bandages across it. Now that I'm at the drawing the final or the finished version, the bandages are kind of that circle lives underneath the bandages. And now I've got to once again not worry about, but put some suds in. Give him kind of what I refer to as zombie fingers. They're going to be very bony and such. But then we're back to the bandages. Again, we'll do this here. And part of this with the mummy, you can see I did on both the head and the arms, is it's not an even wrap across like that. It's very much coming over one way and then comes down a little, and there's a space between them. And you don't have to do that, but if you want to just add a little extra detail, um, little something fun. The body is going to be a lot of mostly long wraps around or the torso, mostly long wraps around the torso, but not entirely. But then again, do you like the fluffy towel? Maybe that's where I put the ankh, is as a symbol on the towel. That's a luxurious towel. That's the kind of thing a pharaoh would wear, right? Am I right or am I wrong? I'm going to add those lines. I don't know that I just added that really quickly. I probably should have said something before I did it. So I'm doing this, and then I'm occasionally coming in and putting a strong out. Um, I didn't start with the outline line, I was saying, with the bandages, but I do come in here and sometimes add it afterwards to stress that it's a single piece. But if I do it afterwards, I can I take into account what the bandages have already set for me. All right, so let's go there and there. Very quickly draw us a bathroom counter. Like so. I'm going to have the canopic jar with the ibis headed topper. What he's got in there, I don't know, maybe some aftershave? There we go. Let's turn off the sketch layer and see what we got here. Soap pump. Oh, yeah, the ibis head probably, yeah, soft soap. That's hand washing soap right there. Good call. You know what? Here, I'm going to erase what's down there because he's going to have the faucet on while he's brushing his teeth. He's not conserving water. All right, I guess we could probably use another one of those harder lines along there to tighten that up. Maybe there too. But basically, that seems like a good line drawing of a mummy brushing their teeth. I'm going to give him just a little bit of rough detail on the teeth because he's got bad teeth. Okay. So, how are we going to color this? How are we going to color this? Again, we've got a mummy who's in the simplest form. You think about any cartoons and any really simple cartoons, any very, very straightforward cartoons. Mummy is just colored with white bandages. Flood season in the Nile. Who conserves water? Yeah, good point, Michael. Um, so yeah, so in simplest terms, if I was just drawing a very simple um, cartoon, I would just color that white. But I don't want to do that because this is the next step up in detail. But I'm going to start with a mummy's skin, which I'm going to use this green gray that I like to use a lot for undead creatures and unnatural creatures. Maybe even a little greener than that. Nope, maybe not that green. There we go, that's a good one. I've got this on gloaming. There we go. I'm going to have a couple of spots where you see through the bandaging. On the legs too. But just a couple. And then I'm going to come in and I'm going to use a yellowish brown. And that's going to be my highlight color. And to make these seem like they're ancient gauze. Got the dust of ages and a rotting corpse underneath. And just look how just a couple of dots of that here in different spots gives the whole thing a feeling of being that off-white instead of pure white. We're going to come back with that nice fresh blue for the I'm going to actually make his teeth even browner. Certainly doesn't have good hygiene, good oral hygiene. So the light yellow for the eyes also. Slightly darker green for what's looking like hair back there. Okay. Use a red on the tube of toothpaste. Why? I don't know. But we can come with a minty green blue as a highlight for that. So many things on this are white. There are a lot of things in this drawing which are white, and by adding these little touches um, of shading, it doesn't really look like. I mean, it looks like the whole thing is colored, despite the fact that most of it is still, blank. I think we'll give him a nice pink toothbrush. Why not? What color towel should he have on? I'm thinking maybe a rust. But I want to get away from, I don't want it to look brown. Also don't want it to be that strong a color. There we go. I'm going to cover right over the ink as I'm doing this. No, that doesn't. I wanted to look like a bathroom color. I think I'm going to have to go with a blue, more blue. But this will be. This will be all about the blue, not blue as an accent for something else. I'm right away going to add in some shading. There we go. And what else do we need to do? We need to get a light blue gray for the sink. And the faucet. A much brighter blue for the water. Got our ibis topper and more like a clay piece for the canopic jar, like so. Yeah, and then we can wrap up the background colors with a little bit of that. A little bit of that like that. Oh, and just a couple of swooshes to give the hint that that's a mirror back there. And I think we've got ourselves a mummy brushing their teeth. Yeah. What do you think? Not that you can stop me. You can't stop me. You can only hope to contain me. We'll put a stand down here in the corner and say we have ourselves a mummy brushing their teeth. Wah. Let's see what's going on in the chat. I saw you guys were chatting and I wasn't looking up. My favorite toothpaste brand is Colgate of Hell. Yeah, you know, if we had a demon brushing their teeth, that would have been the joke to make. Question about the shape within a shape. Do I take lighting into account when doing it? No, I don't, because lighting, when I'm doing the initial shape within a shape, no. When I'm doing the shading afterwards, where I'm trying to emphasize shape, I just want to make sure I'm answering this accurately. Do I take lighting into account? No. When I'm first doing the shape within a shape, it's all flat color. And then it's later when I'm doing the shading that I'm going to add to it. So if I was putting different colors on something in the shape within a shape, if I was working maybe this is a good thing to try and find a way to demonstrate. Let me add a new layer there. Turn all that off. So if we've got a shape, let's just do very quickly. We'll do say a hand up like this is a shape you'll see me draw a lot. And I'm going to color it. And well, I guess in order to do this, I need a little more. We got a body like that. Now I'm going to color this with the shape within a shape method. I'm going to turn on the gloaming brush, and we'll just do everything in kind of a light green. Right? I want to get that arm and that part of the arm kind of separate, this finger and that finger and the palms and like that. I'm not worrying about any of the lighting. I'm identifying the shapes and giving them a flat color. And then when it's time to add shading, now I think about that. Now within that shape, it kind of also helps me to identify what shapes might need shading. So got under there, and I notice that this line and this line happen, and there, that's back there. So this is going to need some shading under there to give that sense of volume. Again, that's got it, and that's got it, and that's got it. And now I'm worrying about shape. But in the initial shape within a shape coloring system, you're working in flat colors. I hope that answers the question. As a drawing of a hand and a torso with nothing else on it, that works okay for me. I'm kind of happy with how that came out. But I'm now going to erase it. You know what? No, I'll just turn it invisible. Maybe I'll figure out something to use that with later, because it's a good question. Anyway, we now have a mummy brushing their teeth. Good. Okay, good. I'm glad that answered the question. Guy looks great. Seems like a neat roommate. Yes, I'm sure the mummy would be very neat, except for all the dust that he would leave everywhere he went. I suppose if thinking about ways to flesh this out, having dust kind of flake off him while he's brushing his teeth would be a funny addition. Okay. All right. 2 drawings down. Shake it up. Shake it up. Have another sip of soda. Turn off round 2. Turn on our encounter tables one more time. You guys ready to do one more? I think I'm ready to do one more, and then we can call it an evening. Move on and get ready for the upcoming weekend. I got more work to do. I'm going to be working tonight. But good thing I like what I do. So, got 2 drawings down. We had a Kenku washing the dishes and a mummy brushing their teeth. Let's see what the dice give us for the 3rd time, shall we? Go on over here to the platform, and we're going to roll it up. Roll it up, and we're looking for a 3rd who. And that's 6, which we know is going to be adventurers. Adventurers are always 6. And for what? We've got a 3, a 6 and a 3, which is adventurer jogging. Okay, well, let's see something. Just saw a little action in the chat. Let me see what's going on here. Anything? What am I working on? Oh, the question is, what am I working on? I can reveal that. One of the things that I do on top of my drawing and game design and project management-y things, I do English adaptation for manga, which is that I write the English script that gets published with a manga. I'm a freelancer for Viz Media. A lot of people, I try and make sure I say this clearly, I don't translate. My Japanese skill is not good enough to translate. But I work with translators who do what's called a literal translation, and they're very skilled. It's not as clunky as some people think. Usually, I have occasionally had a script turned over in that level of translation, but it's translated literally, but the idioms are off and the phrasing isn't great, and it doesn't read like a fun read in English. It's just literally correct. So I take those scripts and I rewrite them to the text that winds up getting published in the book. And so I do that. I've done that for a couple hundred volumes of manga over the years. And right now, I've been working, well, for the last 10 years or so, I've been working on a title called Gundam Thunderbolt Sector. And right now I'm working on an upcoming issue, an upcoming volume of Gundam Thunderbolt Sector. I can tell you that much. I can't tell you which volume, and I can't show you what's going on in it. But I can tell you that much. So there you go. That's what I'll be working on tonight. I'm trying to finish up the script for an upcoming volume of Gundam. But that can wait, because right now we're going to draw an adventurer jogging. I was kind of hoping jogging would come with something a little more unusual when I put it on the list. Michael says he's shelved that many times at the comic book store. Yes, well, anytime you have shelved a volume of Gundam, I did the rewriting for it. If you go back and look in the credits down under English adaptation, it will say Stan with an exclamation point. That's me. All right, so maybe we'll do our big fighter. Because he's the guy that now the question is, so here's the thing where I often talk about the posture being very important in what we do here. So let's do this super simple. I can have a guy running. Right? There's nothing particularly interesting about that. I can also have a guy with his body tilted back and he's running fast. His arms will probably be up higher too. Or I can have a guy slumped over and running with his legs slumped down. His arms will probably be down too. And he'll look more tired. Right? This bent over posture says tired. This bending back posture says he's leaning back and he's really pushing into it. So even though I put no lines on it, it should, to most people, look like, and I'm kind of skewing it by giving him the sweat balloons, but do it like this. Most people would guess in order of fastest to slowest, 1, 2, 3, just by their postures. So the question when you're going to draw anything is, what kind of communication like that do you want to put into the drawing? If I want this guy to be drawing, do I want him to be running fast? Jogging, is he running fast? He's probably running slow. And he might just be running normal, but then there's no gag in that. I'd have to come up with some other thing to be funny. So, there, clear that off. So I'm going to say I want our jogger to be leaning out. There, you could, again, to do some quick drawings, you can go to extremes. It can be like that. He can also be way bent over with his arms down and schlepping along. It can be just a little bit. I think just a little is probably what I want. This guy looks really tired. This guy looks like he's about to drop. So, I want to get kind of a body like that with the head forward on it so that he's leaning forward. And if I put the leg out too much, that makes him look like he's running fast and hard. He's not. He's doing a slow jog. So it's going to be down there like that and up there like that. His arm's going to be mostly at his side. Slow, little arm movements as opposed to running fast with big arm movements. Again, these are the kinds of things you should think about when you're trying to figure out what the posture is going to be for your drawing. Now, I'm also going to put him in his armor, which is a terrible thing to go running in. But I'm going to give him a headband. We got down there an elf next to him on your left, Captain America style. That's funny. All right, so we'll give the elf a leaning back because he's going so fast. He's actually going to have to say on your right because he's on his right side, not his left. There we go. He's not liking that. You know, we'll give the elf normal running clothes. Maybe we'll just give this guy the shoulder pads. I don't know. Maybe armor top and shorts and boots. Yeah, I like that. Mix it up. Mix up. So this will be much clearer when I do the coloring. It's insane. On your right. And he's just going to have nasty thoughts there, like that. All right, let's go to the lines layer and flesh this out, as it were. Just want to make sure I've got the balance right. All right, what's the line I'm going to start with that I'm confident in? I'm going to start with a nose. Why? Don't ask me why. I just am. We'll have him sweating a little. Give him big shoulder blades, shoulder pads, as it were. Um, you won't be able to tell until we finish, but that arm is going to be unclad. But his hand is going to be in armor. Give him a belt. And then we'll give him running shorts underneath his semi-armored top. Guess that's it, right? You got to train. It's like say in football, you train in full pads so that they feel lighter during the game. You got to do your training here in your boots. Boots and shoulder pads. Probably, I can increase how bare his arms and legs look by that foot did not come out right at all. But I need to finish that other sentence. I can change how they look by putting some hairs off them like that. We'll give him wavy lines because he's not going that fast. And then on the far side, we're going to have ourselves we'll give him curly elf boots. Look how pleased he is with himself. That's why everyone hates elves. And why we love them. And we'll give him strong speed lines because he's zipping through. saying on your right. And of course, we're going to get the unhappy thought balloon. I think I'll come in here and just he's just not happy. Let's turn off the sketch layer and see what we got going on here. F and elf. Oh, the elf running barefoot. That would be even funnier. Let's do that. I don't need the sketch layer for that. I've got a pretty good idea. Here's another little thing. We're gonna put our warrior's shadow directly underneath him. Right, his feet aren't coming much off the ground. The elf is clearly above the ground, moving fast. Okay, so let's go to the color layer. Go to the gloaming brush again, and we can put some tones in here. Again, so I'm identifying those shapes. Remember that his arms and legs are bare. Maybe red sweatband. You know what? I think I'm going to do the red, and then I'm going to give it a little stripe of white. Kind of John McEnroe-esque. John McEnroe used to wear headbands that were red and white striped. And we're going to need to do at least two-tone coloring job on here, probably three. Don't need as many colors because we're not doing the whole suit of armor, but as I've explained before, I like to, when I'm doing armored characters, use the colors to delineate how kind of the basic texture of the different pieces of the armor. So the hardest part, that shoulder part, the belt, is that darker gray wrapped around the fingers too. The very protective part. Give him blue running shorts. In fact, not just blue running shorts, but again, we can come through with a stripe down the side. And our elf. He's so skinny, there's not a lot of shapes within his shapes. He's just shapes. And I'm going to use a light grayish purple for the shadows. It's too red. There we go. A clean light blue for the sweat. And his puffing breath. And a very light dark blue just to heighten that angry balloon. This is funny. I like this. Good choice, folks. Surreptitious says you cannot be serious. We are totally serious. As serious as I get around here, which you're right, it's not very serious. All right, but I think we've got our adventurers jogging. So I can stick a stand down in the corner. And there we go. Adventurers jogging. Add some rogue on the fighter. White socks with color bands. Yeah, if I'd kept those shoes on him, I might have given him calf link socks with the stripes at the top. That definitely say workout socks. But there we go. Adventurers jogging. Done. Thank Cthulhu for that. Indeed. So, yeah, that was fun. Got an hour and a half, just like that. Tell you, after last week, I was tired after last week. I mean, not surprisingly. I had a lot of fun. It was great. I loved it. I would do it again. Probably won't do it again for another year, but I would totally do something like that again. But this seemed so quick and so easy, comparatively. Kind of like jogging in your armor. All right. I'll have that. And they're ready. Do an outro. Okay? All right? You with me? Good. Good. Adventurous jogging. That sure seems like a lot of work. You know, it was fun too. It was fun to draw. That was our third drawing for this week. We had before it Mummy brushing his teeth, brushing their teeth. We have, oh, hello, Lala. Thank you for joining us. Super late. You know what? You're here just in time, Lala, and it's so good to see you. I know I can count. Lala comes right in at the end and says, hey, everyone, remember to click like, which I forgot to do for the whole hour and a half. What would I do without you, Lala? Please, no matter what format you're watching this on, give it a like, give it a heart, give it a thumbs up, whatever goes with that platform. I'd greatly appreciate it. Now, you know what? I'll explain why in a second. We got the second drawing was Mummy brushing his teeth. In case you missed it, Lala, the one over here was Adventurers Jogging, and Mummy brushing the teeth, and we started off with a Kenku washing the dishes. And that's what we drew on this week's episode of Random Encounters. What do I want to say before we sign off? I want to say, some people were asking at the end of last week whether I would put all the drawings up for folks to see, and 84 drawings is a lot to post. I also said I didn't think I would want to put together a booklet of them. But I'm beginning to rethink that. Over this week, I've had a chance to go back and look at those drawings again, and I'm happier with a higher percentage of them than I thought I was going to be. So I'm considering making a PDF that folks will be able to get. I may stick a pay what you want. I may stick a $1 or $2 price point on. I don't know. But it's seeming more likely that that'll happen. But I'll tell you what else is almost certainly going to happen. Someone asked me about a process video. It's kind of showing them all come together. And I wasn't enamored of that idea when they asked me. But then because I do stuff on Procreate, it automatically generates a process video. And I watched the process video. It's the whole, almost 2 hours of drawing condensed into a little under 5 minutes. And I thought it was pretty entertaining. So I'll probably put that together and post it somewhere. Where is the question? And I could just post it here to my YouTube channel. That's a very likely place. I could also post it, I don't want to hide it behind a paywall, but I probably will. People who are members of my Patreon community, I'll let them see it first. So if you want to see that, now's a good time to consider maybe joining my Patreon, which I don't promote all that often, but I am more now. My Patreon, patreon.com/Stanex. You get to see everything that I do, that I release publicly. I send in, I make a post and you will get it in an email. So you don't have to hunt it down and you'll be able to find it anytime you want. There are occasionally other things like PDFs or stickers or other things that people at different levels will get. But the basic level, like $3 or $5 level, you get to see all the stuff. You get to interact with me. You get first chance to look at things. Some videos I don't ever put out other than for Patreon members, particularly process videos. So worth considering. It's a fun community. I'm always trying to find ways to make it a little better, give a little extra to you kind folks who show me so much support. And what I really want is it to be a community that we all like hanging out in. Patreon has a free one. Yeah, you can be a free member of the Patreon, but most of that stuff I'm talking about doesn't get shown, are not open to free, the free members. There's a lot of the stuff you'll get notified that it's been posted. But I want to make sure that for the people that do, pay for a little bit of my to support me or to be part of the community or because they want to encourage what I'm doing, I want to make sure they're getting something that not everyone can get. So yes. Lala, you say that mustered up the courage to draw. I remember this year, you started the year with a challenge to yourself to do more drawing. I'm not going to embarrass you here in this chat, but the next time I bump into you somewhere else, I'm going to ask you because I've been curious. I've been wondering how you're the year of drawing has been going. So yes, I always encourage everyone here. This drawing is fun. I do this because it's fun, and I want you to get that fun too. So I always invite you to draw along. I do that at the beginning of the show, and I'm doing it again here. Olala says, did it for a half month and then you fell off the wagon. That's all right. That's all right. You know what? I'm here to immediately say, no guilt. Don't feel bad about that. But I'm also here to encourage you to start drawing again. Maybe you know, I was a little uncertain when you told me your goal had been to draw every day all year. I thought that's tough for everyone. Tough for anyone. It's tough for me to say I'm gonna draw something every day, and I draw professionally. So I encourage you, Lala, just do a little drawing once a week, and I also offer my services as your completion partner. What's the phrase I'm looking for? You can. Oh, you want prompts? Oh. You know what? You say that, and all right. I'm going to think about this, Lala. You come back next week, and I will probably have something to say on this. The idea of doing prompts and turning it into a thing has been on my mind. That getting into more of being an art leader, as it were. I'll think about it. An accountability was a word I couldn't think of. Yes, Lala, I will be your accountability partner. Next week, I want you to be able to tell me that you did one drawing, even one like little character. Think about those characters I drew last week. The 60 second, just one character, quickly drawn. I want by next week, when I see you again, I want you to be able to tell me that you drew one character. And we'll start from there. We'll try to do one character a week. Think you can do that? I think you can. And everyone else is invited to join in too if you want. Michael and Chris and Surreptitious, you're all invited. Join in. Let's make a little drawing club of it. Look, who I didn't know I was gonna. I'd better get out of here before I start promising something bigger. All right, so thank you everyone for coming. I've had a great time. I will post these as I always do to my social media. I will also post them to my so you can dig around and find them. But if you're in my Patreon, I'll be emailing them to you. There you go. I'll also be doing some other drawings. As I mentioned earlier, I've got to do some writing tonight, so I'm gonna sign off here and go and have a little refreshment break, and then I'll be back doing some writing. I hope you, whatever you're doing, have a really good night, a really good week, and I look forward to seeing you here again for another episode of Random Encounters. Until then, take care.